Yeah. But I think Fathom has filmed that, so we're all good. Right, where are we? This one. Make large. Right, so I want to talk about cortisol. Now, it's getting a lot more traction, the concept of cortisol. So I want to make sure that you guys understand what this is as a hormone and how it can impact for you or against you when it comes to your fitness goals. We're going to talk a little bit around thyroid function and also perimenopause because this is where it can also be majorly impacted a little bit more than anybody else. But before we do, Amy Dobner, congratulations, 10 kgs of fat loss has gone forever. Whoop! Which is amazing. Sarah Dixon, incredible body recomposition piece. So this is actually, and I know you guys can't see it, but I did see it with Kat this morning and we went through everybody as we do. But even when somebody's not dropping huge amounts of body fat, and she didn't have a lot of body fat to lose, that wasn't really why she necessarily came into the program. But looking at the before and where she's at now in strength training and actually the difference between exercising and training, my God, can you see the difference in her physique? And she looks incredible. So I just wanted to shout her out for that. And then also Jane actually had a little bit of a wobble when she came into the program. She was a bit like, well, I dropped fat and then I didn't. And then she was a bit like, oh my God, this is working really well for my husband, but now I'm not seeing as much movement as he is. And one of the worries was I've had a coach before, or a PT, I think it was, and it did not work. And I was like, you need to shift your mindset. This is a mindset battle. If you're believing that what you've done didn't work before and you're bringing that energy into this program, we need to switch it because that the famous saying, I've been saying it a bit lately, but those who believe they can are probably right. Those who believe they can't are probably also right. So you want to believe that you can so that you can actually start getting where you want to be. But what I was proud of her for was actually reaching out and getting the support and the encouragement and all of the things that she needed. And the next day she was like, I've dropped a pound. I've dropped a pound. And now, a week on, more body fat has gone. So this is the point in communicating. Ignore Hector, he's decided he's got a mouth on him tonight. But this is the point in communicating with us as your coaches. It does move the needle, even just to get your mindset in a can-do and a winning environment. But also, welcome to Helen, Stacey, and Heidi as our latest women to join the program in the last week. So, what essentially is cortisol? It's a steroid hormone produced by your adrenaline glands. It's known as a stress hormone. It's a part of the fight or flight response. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I do feel like we always think of cortisol as this horrendous thing, but we actually do all need it. It's just trying to make sure we're getting it at the right levels. But it is helping to prevent blood sugar levels, energy release. Sorry, not it's helping to regulate, not remove, blood sugar levels, energy release, inflammation, blood pressure, and sleep-wake cycles. So we do need cortisol. The problem is when the levels are consistently too high, which is usually down to chronic stress, which can be caused by a lot of different factors. So in the right amounts, it's going to boost your energy to handle challenges. It will help burn fat for fuel in short bursts, which again, for a lot of you guys, that's going to be helping towards your goals. Keeps inflammation in check as well and supports alertness and focus. So that connection with brain fog and high cortisol is usually leaving some clues. So a good example of where it is working is after a workout, cortisol rises temporarily to help your body recover and adapt. So again, that is not a bad thing. However, when it's working against you, this is the chronic elevated cortisol. So this is from ongoing stress, poor sleep, overtraining, undereating, or emotional stress. This can lead to fat storage. You're likely to see it around the visceral fat, which again, very heavily impacts perimenopausal women. That visceral fat, which is basically the belly fat that sits in and around the organs in the lower region, which we obviously do not want to be increasing at any point in life. Muscle breakdown, harder to build or maintain lean muscle. Again, not working towards our goals. Increase hunger and cravings, especially sugary, fatty food. So it's working a little bit like alcohol does, which can cause cortisol spikes by drinking. Sleep disturbances. You feel tired but wired. You know that feeling when you can't get to sleep because your brain is on overdrive, which I have from time to time. I know you guys will as well. Mood swings, hangry, that feeling of being hangry, anxiety, low mood, suppressed thyroid function, which is moving into a slower metabolism, which again, we do not want. We want our thyroid to be working effectively. Increased risk of insulin resistance as well. So let's talk about the thyroid function in women. We're going to break this down quite quickly, quite straightforward, because obviously it is a little bit more in depth than we need, but I just wanted to give a bit of insight. So the thyroid, small gland in the neck, you probably know of it when you get really poorly and you really start to feel it, the gland inside of your neck, but it's like your body's engine and it's regulating metabolism, energy, body temperature, heart rate, and it is producing two key hormones. So we're going to call it so T4, T3, because my brain's not going to pronounce all of that very easily tonight. But essentially, it's the inactive form, which is T4, and the active form that actually boosts your metabolism. So T3 is the one that we really want to be like making sure that is firing correctly. And T4 needs to be converted into T3 for your body to actually work correctly. So when cortisol is chronically elevated, what basically happens is it's suppressing the thyroid hormone production. So it's signaling to your body we're in danger, slow down all non-essential functions. Guess what is a non-essential function? Dropping body fat, your digestion system slowing down. All of these things are what your body goes, no, we can't focus on doing that. We can't focus on building muscle. We can't focus on dropping body fat. We can't focus on functioning correctly because we've got to deal with this over here. The pituitary gland produces the thyroid stimulating hormones. So again, you're making less of that T4, the thing we actually want to be doing, which in turn is slowing down your metabolism, lowering your energy reserves, fat loss getting harder, and again, increasing that hormonal resistance, which is what we do not want to do. So even if it looks okay on blood tests, this is also a very grey area, very similar to perimenopause. Your body can react within 1 minute and show completely fine blood works, and then literally a few minutes later it could show something completely different. So the time in which your blood is taken can completely skew the results of your hormones, which then the doctors might tell you, no, you're operating absolutely fine, when 2 minutes earlier you were not. So these are all considerations. So cortisol has in perimenopausal women or menopausal women, cortisol tends to play quite a large part. So it has a bigger impact as estrogen declines. The body becomes more sensitive to stress at that point in time. The belly fat, so the menobelly that it's being coined, sleep issues, cravings often feel worse due to this. Cortisol can also dysregulate hormones, compounding symptoms like the hot flushes, the low mood, the brain fog. All of these things you tend to hear in perimenopausal symptoms usually relate quite closely to high and elevated for long periods of time with the cortisol. So if we look at this graph, so it's basically showing you the gradual rise in cortisol as women progress through perimenopause. The body becomes more sensitive to stress as the estrogen and progesterone start to go on a decline. So that usual hormone buffer, the estrogen calming effects, weakens. So stress it basically has a stronger impact on the body. And again, as corporate women, you hear about this all the time with social media where people feel like they're not performing at their highest standard in the workplace that becomes more stressful, then they're living in more chronic stress, and then it's basically becoming a vicious cycle. So life stresses at this point with work, family, sleep disturbances, all of this is driving that cortisol even higher. So this is where a lot of doctors will absolutely recommend HRT to try, and what we're basically trying to do is artificially stimulate the estrogen in your body that is no longer being produced reliably at that point. It's essentially it's the stress control center involving your brain and your adrenaline gland so that cortisol spikes more easily and stays lower. I'm just gonna, somebody's not on mute. Hang on, I'm just gonna find who you are. Who is it? I can't find it, but I can hear it. I can hear it. I don't know who you are, but if everyone could just mute, I'm not sure who it is. There we go. So by restoring the estrogen levels, HRT can reduce how reactive the stress system actually is. So cortisol levels don't rise as dramatically in response to those daily stresses. Now my mouse won't move, hang on. Right, so what actually causes cortisol to spike? So in your guys' lives, it can be a myriad of different things, as it can be in mine and every other woman's as well. So, poor sleep, insomnia. Now, some of you guys will have noticed this with the heat, how you don't sleep as easily. That is, sleep is so fucking important. It is so, so important as we go through life. We need to make sure that we are aiming for good sleep. Excess caffeine or alcohol, they're not going to help with cortisol. Skipping meals and under eating, excessive cardio, overtraining, things like the HIIT workouts. This is also why we do not recommend them for perimenopausal women. This is also why exercise classes are about the worst thing they could possibly do, because all they're going to do is elevate the cortisol. Work stress, life stress, emotional loads, which we do all go through from time to time, but we don't want to be staying up here all the time. If we're doing that on stress, then our cortisol levels are going to be very reactive. Social media, blue light at night. Some of you guys will find yourselves in that scroll hole, just mindfully scrolling, and again, raising those cortisol levels. But it's not just about the big stresses. You know, when you have something really chaotic kick off in your life, it's the constant drip of the small stresses that start to mount up, and that's what's keeping that cortisol level raised. So this diagram is essentially showing you the natural daily, it's basically the circadian rhythm of cortisol levels in the human body over 24 hours. So we do actually get natural rises and natural peaks and troughs within cortisol every single day. So we are talking in the morning, cortisol actually naturally rises quite sharply, peaking about 30 to 45 minutes after waking up. So it is called the cortisol awakening response, CAR for short. Throughout the day, cortisol levels actually gradually fall as the day goes on. Again, as long as you're managing your stress correctly. Nighttime levels are the lowest. Again, this is where we should be going into a restorative state. So again, it's allowing us to wind down and actually fall to sleep. So the dash line is that chronic elevation. That we do not want to be in that chronic elevation for long periods of time. It is not going to serve you. So simple strategies. So prioritizing sleep hygiene. It sounds like common sense, but aiming for that consistent bedtime, consistent wake up time, this is going to serve you better than, and again, this is why for shift workers, their cortisol can be completely different because they are working night, they're working different shifts. But what we want to be trying to aim for is that consistent routine where we can. That dark, cool room and reducing your screen time before bed. So every single one of you will have the option on your iPhones, your Android phones, God bless you guys, but you will have a function that allows you to put your phone into nighttime mode at a certain point and it'll just trigger a certain alarm. You can also close off apps. You can also change your screen into a monochrome. There's so many different things you can do around the screen. Eating balanced meals regularly, especially protein and carbohydrate. So, the ladies who love to skip carbs, not doing wonders for your cortisol. The women who love to skip breakfast. The women who have tried fasting and wondering why it didn't really work for them very well when it comes to fat loss. These are all of the things that do not work well. They are not good food hygiene. That is why we coach every single woman in this program to aim for a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner, plus a couple of snacks here and there if you need them throughout the day. This is vital. The moment you are skipping meals, you are going to be spiking that cortisol. You will know it because you will be getting hangry. You will be getting irritable. You'll be getting more stressy at people and you won't be functioning at the highest capability. Your body is giving you clues. And then what you're also likely to do is reach for the things and the stuff that the cortisol spike is creating that you then want to just grab convenience foods. That's what it is doing. When you leave it too long, it is not serving you. Not training fasted, ever. And for the women who love to train first thing in the morning, something quick and digestible like rice cakes, maybe with a bit of peanut butter on, or plain rice cakes, Rice Krispie squares, banana. Hell, you could have a little bit of protein if you wanted to, whatever. It just ideally, a fast digesting carb is what's going to serve us better in that pre-workout phase. And I don't care if you train at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, you can have a bit of a banana. Do you know what I mean? You can have something that you can easily break down. Strength training goes without saying. Every single woman in this program does strength training, and we program this deliberately for a fucking reason. It is not plucked out of thin air why every single one of you is strength training and moderate cardio. So, this is usually your steps. Now, some of you guys, you might be doing a bit of running alongside this because you enjoy it, and actually, it decreases your stress. You actually enjoy running. I like going out for walks. You won't catch me running very far. I don't even think I'd run for a bus, not gonna lie. But I enjoy my morning walks with the boys. And I actually like a lot of peace and quiet. And it irritates me when random men keep trying to join in on my fucking morning walks. Not interested in talking to random men, but too polite to say, please leave me alone. I'm in my peace and quiet. So I'm going to start wearing my big fuck you headphones going, sorry, what? Put them back on. Walk on. But this is it. Find what allows you to keep some peace inside your life. Building de-stress time. So meditation, journaling. We've been talking quite a lot to some of the women about journaling lately. If you feel like your head is going to boil off, take a minute. Just take a beat. Do you know what I mean? Go for, like I say, go for a walk or sit with your feelings for a moment and think, why am I feeling triggered right now? What is it that's actually doing this? And write it down, get it onto paper and start to think, why is this causing this reaction? Or are you hungry? Is it actually because you forgot to eat or something else is playing its part in your day? Deep breathing, so long breaths in, long breaths out, just to quieten the mind. And again, walking, limiting excessive caffeine and alcohol. Now, as a country, I'd say as a world, I'd probably say we're quite big on caffeine. That's quite a big thing that plays its part. I personally don't drink coffee. I think it tastes like shit. I don't know any adult that must have woken up and gone, oh, I really like the taste of coffee. It's fucking horrible. I'm pretty sure we are trained to like the taste of coffee because you actually like the hit, not the flavor. I also don't love alcohol. It's very rare that I can find an alcoholic beverage that I actually like. Again, I think in the UK, we do have a huge relationship with alcohol. And actually, you probably trained yourself to like it because nobody often drinks wine or beer and goes, that's amazing. That tastes so good. It usually your first response to it is you just think you're cool as a teenager trying it out. But this is it. We do need to minimize make sure that we're drinking water, make sure that we're staying hydrated, and just minimize the amount. I'm not saying cut any of it out. I'm just saying be aware of where your addictions lie. And again, coming back to that training I did on the YouTube, where it's actually the relief you're often looking for. So start to spot the trend in what's causing you to reach out for that in the first place. Be mindful of all or nothing approaches. Dieting too hard, not going to work. So I'm still speaking with women on my Instagram who are still like, there's still coaches that are putting their calories far, far too low, far too low. And this is a common theme in the industry. So again, be very, very mindful of missing meals, dropping those calories too low, and not actually following the guidance that you've been given. Your body cannot tell the difference between a lion chasing you and your boss's deadline or the stress of skipping meals. It is literally going into fight or flight mode based on your actions, and we have to give our bodies the signal of safety, because otherwise you are spiking your cortisol, and I promise it's going to pull you further away from your goals when we do not want to be doing that. So cortisol is not the enemy, but unmanaged stress and lifestyle habits can make it feel that way. You can't just diet and train harder to fix what's driven by stress. Focus on balance, sleep, smart training, nourishing food, and stress management. This is why inside of Strong Her, we don't just focus on workouts and calories. We try and genuinely look at the whole picture. So if somebody is extremely stressed, we've got to unpack that. We've got to do a little bit of work around that. If somebody's mindset's not where it needs to be, we're going to be doing some work on that. So this is why we take quite a holistic approach, because we need you guys to understand all of the pieces of the puzzle. So does anybody, let me just stop that share. Does anybody have any questions? So I definitely need to cut down my social media use, especially before bed. So Gemma, you've been saying that for months. That's not the first time you've written that. You need to, it is literally just a case of, I tell you what is a good solution. There's a Barbie phone that you can buy that has absolutely no access to social media. None. It's just a flip phone. It rings people, it messages people, get it. And then you cannot even get sucked into the world of social media. You might get sucked into Snake. Can't lie, that probably would be an addiction for 24 hours or so, but you do need to take action on that. And like I say, set your phone up so that you actually do put that bedtime alarm on. Don't just say it. We need to actually do it and follow through with what we're going to say. You can even set a restriction in an app as well. So if it's Instagram, TikTok, whatever your choice is, you can actually restrict how much time you spend in there. And then it's going to shut off. It's not going to allow you access unless you lift that barrier again. So this is what you need to be doing. But you got to follow through on it now. For the question section, I drink coffee daily, probably 2 cups. Do you know whether there's any evidence on what would be classed as too much? That's not too much caffeine. 2 a day, I would say, is absolutely fine. I would probably have 2 cups of tea a day. It's a different form of caffeine. It's not as easily accessible, but 2 a day is absolutely fine. I would definitely say when you're on the kind of 4, 5, 6 cups, you're kind of starting to stretch into a little bit of a difficult barrier there. And also playing its part to kind of go, right, I'm not going to have a cup of coffee. If I have a cup of coffee at 3 p.m., on the very rare occasion where I need to just focus, blast some work off and get through something, or I'm poorly and need a bit of a pick me up. Thomas offered me one this afternoon because of my brain feeling like it was hurting. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. If I have coffee beyond like probably 2 p.m., I'm going to be bouncing off the fucking walls and I will not sleep. It's not worth it. Now, I obviously have a very, very low tolerance. Yours might be a little bit higher if you do drink a couple of cups a day, but that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Like, I wouldn't say that's a cause for concern. Oh, hang on, they're moving quickly. They are moving quickly. Where are we? I'm very picky with what alcohol I will drink because I don't want to drink something I don't like the taste of. I agree. I agree. I don't know why anyone would drink something they don't like the taste of, hence why I don't drink coffee. It's the same for alcohol. The only thing I found I can really drink is a Pinot Grigio white wine with basically half lemonade. Then it just tastes like lemonade and I can get it back and it's great. That's fine. But then it does defeat the object a little bit. I might as well just have a glass of lemonade and skip the alcohol. Do you know what I mean? I don't mind a beer, like a little stubby thing, a little beer. I actually don't think that's too bad. But I do still remember having a first beer and going, that's horrible. So we definitely do train ourselves to like things that we don't necessarily like. So it is proof of that. Um, where are we? How does cortisol impact people with PCOS? It's very similar, very, very similar. So, what you've got to think about is you don't want to be raising your stress higher either. It's all very similar for people of all principles that you need to absolutely make sure that you are on top of your chronic stress or the little things that are building up throughout the day because it is impacting everybody. Now, you probably do fall into slightly more of that kind of perimenopausal category. You're slightly more at risk, I would say, of the cortisol spiking than somebody that doesn't have it. But the processes and the symptoms and the all of it's still the same. Managing that chronic stress, making sure that you are eating regularly throughout the day, your sleep hygiene is in check, that you are strength training again, absolutely paramount for PCOS. You can't be hit training, you can't be throwing yourself around a room because you will spike that cortisol, and we do not want to do that. So you've got to regulate your levels by, again, the same lifestyle choices as everybody, whether you have underactive thyroid, overactive thyroid, PCOS, endometriosis, all of these different things. None of us want to be raising our cortisol to these levels. We have to keep it in check no matter what we're going through. Um, how can you give me advice on food directly after training? Is it needed and is there a golden window? Yes, it is needed. And yes, there is technically, well, it's arguable. There are actually research studies that go both ways on the optimal golden window, but we try and follow a bit of a rule of thumb. So directly after training, not immediately, but the ideal way is when your heart rate is returning back to normal, which is usually, depending on the person, within about 30 minutes of your session. Your heart rate's normally coming back down again, and this is where you feel like you're back on a human form. You're not sweating to death. You're not like panting, feeling like you're going to die. It's that window. So that's where you need to replenish. So you want to be having some decent protein, around 30 grams is a good rule of thumb. And you also want to be having some decent carbohydrates. So that's where I would be aiming for a proper one of my meals of the day. And I would be thinking, so I train first thing in the morning. I would have a Rice Krispie square before I go. And then when I get back, that's when I'm having my actual breakfast, which is my protein powder with my oats and with my almond milk or semi-skim milk, depending on the time of year. And I might chuck some fruit in, some frozen berries or something for good measure. That would be when I have my breakfast. And if I tried to have that within minutes of me training, it would make me want to throw up. I would not want to drink it. But within half an hour, I'm feeling more settled. I'm feeling a bit more like, right, that's when the hunger starts to come to play. And you're going, I could fucking eat a horse now. That's when you want to start to think, I need to be getting something into me. So high protein, some complex carbs. So something that's going to release energy a little bit slower. So like oats, Weetabix if it's breakfast or if it's a lunch, whatever you might have for lunch, potatoes, rice, broccoli. Pasta is the word I'm looking for, not broccoli. You can have broccoli. Well, it's going to be a bit quicker of a carb, but you could have it. Do you know what I mean? So it's that sort of thing. Within 30 minutes is a good rule of thumb after training. Aim for decent protein, decent carbs to get it in there. Um, I heard from my colleague that he avoids coffee after a workout as it would further spike cortisol levels. What are your thoughts on that? I need my morning coffee. Now, I would say for me, it would 1000% spike cortisol. I have such a low tolerance to coffee that it would spike me. Like I say, I would probably get the shakes. If I've just done a workout, my heart rate has already been elevated. I'm already in a slightly higher stress zone at this point, and I need to come back down. If I had a coffee, I would shoot back up again, and it wouldn't be conducive for me. But I would actually say you'd be better off trying to have the coffee before the workout as a pre-workout because it is a bit of a stimulant. So you'd actually be better off trying to potentially have it first. So I do take pre-workout, which does have a bit of caffeine in. Now I do it all wrong and I sup it throughout the entire workout because otherwise, again, I'd be like this in the gym. It's not going to go well. But to have it afterwards, I'd probably say that is a fair statement, but it depends on your reaction to caffeine. If you don't get the shakes and if you're not noticing it too high, and if you're having that coffee with some food and you feel like actually my stress levels are fairly low, I'm regulated, it's not going to make me bouncing off the walls, and you're not going to get a huge spike in your reaction, that may be okay. I'd say that probably is quite person specific. So if you've not noticed an adverse reaction, but I probably wouldn't do it and then not eat. I would definitely do it while I eat. So you have the coffee alongside something that is bringing your cortisol levels back down again. So I would pair the two for sure. Or if you can, just stretch a gap after a workout between when you have that first coffee. I'm 53, cannot have caffeine. I mean, you're not missing out. I'm not gonna lie, I think it's gross. Sugar or carbs in the morning anymore. Only a tiny bit in the afternoon. Pretty sure cortisol and insulin resistance is the reason. It only really affects you as you get older. So I would still be having a slow increase of carbohydrates. I would definitely still be doing that throughout the day. Um, Sugar, I mean, that's personal preference. You could take it or leave it. I would never have anything with sugar in, like early in the morning. I would definitely not touch anything with sugar in. What was that? Or carbs. I mean, I would still have simple carbs personally. But Tracy, if you found what works for you and you feel like that's what's good for your body, but you do need to watch your cortisol levels. But I'm pretty sure yours, I can't remember if you said yours were high or yours were really low, but there could well be a correlation between that practice and what you're seeing. So it's definitely something to watch. I get 7 hours of sleep or a bit less at the moment, too low. Very person specific again. So you won't catch me getting 7 hours or less sleep. I like my sleep. You'd be really hard push. If I got less than 8 hours, I'm going to be a very angry little bitch. But some women do perform really well. So women typically do need more sleep than men. But as I know, you've gone through having a child and it does dysregulate your sleep, and you do learn to usually have a little bit less sleep than somebody that is pre-child like me. I have not gone through that experience of I have a little bit because Hector, obviously, when he was a puppy, we did have a few weeks of sleep deprivation. Crate trained him as fast as you can possibly imagine. That was our solution to it to get him through it. But with the baby, you're going to have gone through a little bit of sleep deprivation. And then as they get older and they tend to go through a bit of sleep regression, so do you. So you might be absolutely fine on 7 hours. If you feel like I'm well recovered, I feel okay, this is my normal, that is absolutely fine. But just be aware of how it's, if you don't feel well recovered, if you don't feel like it's enough, that's when you need to have a little bit of a play around. But there are definitely women who can function absolutely fine on 5, 6 hours sleep. Like I say, it's not the life for me. We also have shift workers in the program, people that do have a little bit of an upset rhythm. Again, that's their sleep patterns will be completely different. So it's very, I'd say between 6 and 8 is usually the sweet spot. Some women need 9, some women need longer. Do you know what I mean? But it's about you and acknowledging how well you perform. Some women feel like if they get an hour extra, they just feel groggy, they feel a bit shit, and it's too much sleep. So you've just got to get that window right for you. It's more about quality of sleep over the quantity of sleep. That's what's more important. Which Rice Krispie squares do you eat? So I eat the chocolate ones. Is that what you mean? These ones, I'll show you. I got my pajama pants on. Hang on. Those ones. You can get the unbranded version in Aldi, but I don't like them as much. But yeah, so just one of them. They are, let's have a look at the macros. Is it on this or on the main packet? Oh my God, what does that say? 156 calories per one. Now, I obviously do have a lot of calories to play with in my day. So, for some of you guys, you might be thinking, there's no way I would want to use 156 calories on that. But I like it. You can get the plain ones. I think they are more like 140 calories. Thomas has a no, it's not a marshmallow, like a cookies and cream flavor. Just buy them at Home Bargains in bulk. Just pick up a box and walk out with paying. I'd like to have, but not stealing. That sounded like I was just walking out, like, God, they're mine now. I'm not doing that. Another question on food after training. I train for 1 hour in the morning, around 45 minutes after training. I cycle for 25 minutes to work, which can make my heart rate peak at 180 or so. So do you think eating would be better 30 minutes after the cycle? I would do it after training because then some of that energy will become available for your cycle. Whereas because there's too big of a gap, I would say, if it's like 20, yeah, 45 minutes after training. So then you're leaving that gap really, really long. Now you could break down. So I think, did you say you train? Yeah, you're training in the morning. So what you could do is always split your breakfast in half. You could have half directly after training, half when you get to the office. I used to take porridge into work when I worked in the corporate world. I'd just sit and it would take me about an hour and a half to eat my porridge at my desk while I was doing all of the other things. I was well known for taking my cold porridge into meetings with like senior members of staff, just sitting and eating my porridge, and it became a well-known thing about me. But I couldn't eat first thing in the morning. I still don't. That's why I'll have something light, then I'll train, and then I come back for breakfast. Again, breakfast is still my least favorite meal of the entire day. So I make it work for my schedule and what I do. The marshmallow ones, I think 190. Yeah, okay, so that's a lot lower then. So that's significantly lower. The marshmallow, you are saving a decent 30 calories. Depends if you like chocolate or not, to be honest, which I'm not actually a big chocolate lover, but I do really like them. I've just got into the habit of having it around like before a workout, so that's just part of my routine now. Um, I want to try the caramel chocolate ones. I think we've got them. I think they're in the cupboard. I think they are sweet. They are so sweet. Let me just check if they are the ones that we've got. Um, yeah. So I would say this packet has probably taken, this has probably been in that cupboard for the whole of this year. And this is my accidental reserve I've run out and not got to Home Bargains to steal them. I'm joking. I'm still joking. But that's it. They are very, very sweet. And that to me, that's too much. But again, I do train first thing, like literally first thing in the morning. So I can't have something that sweet. But if you like them or you're having it later in the day, no drama on that. Right, does anybody, there's loads of you on tonight actually, does anybody have any other questions? Anything training programs? I have changed over all the 52-minute Smith machines. I think I did go through them all. I think I did it this morning. So hopefully, I always get really nervous about changing live in action programs in case it changes the whole thing that you're working in. But you'll have to let me know. I don't think it will have done, but I always get scared like, oh God, it's going to set you right back to the beginning. But yeah, I changed over all of those this morning, so you should all be fine. So yeah, does anybody have anything else, nutrition, anything that you want to ask at this point? That was a good Q&A actually, by the way. Well done. You all turned up for that. I like it. Right. Well, I'm going to love you and leave you all then, and we'll see you at check-ins on Friday. Have an absolutely fantastic week, and yeah, let's absolutely crush it, ladies. See you later. Bye.
Bye.